Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight, and thank you, Stephen, for that very powerful and moving and important talk to hear about. So I also want to thank Marie and everyone at Kaminar for inviting me to speak tonight among such a distinguished lineup of speakers and to speak with you. So I'm going to start by talking a bit about a powerful new approach for treating the cognition and motivation deficits inherent in schizophrenia and other brain illnesses. But first, I'll share a little bit of my background. So, as Stephen mentioned, I have schizophrenia. I was diagnosed in 1990 when I was 18, and with the help of my family and my psychiatrist, I was able to recover fairly well, fairly quickly, such that by 1996, I was working as an engineer at Space Systems Loral in Palo Alto, near here. And I really loved that job. But in 1996, I had another episode of symptoms, my second episode. And my brain sustained some functional damage during that episode, such that my motivation, cognition took a severe hit. So that even though I was stabilized and my psychotic symptoms were under control, I spent most of my days playing computer games, which I loved at the time and entertained me, but my real life was on hold. So for all the hope I felt, the rest of my life might play out that way. So these deficits in cognition and motivation are common to many people with schizophrenia and many other brain illnesses too. And they presently constitute the biggest challenge for our recovery. So all the things that matter in life, at least to me, contributions to your community, building healthy relationships, building a successful career and personal achievements, all these things require healthy motivation and cognition. But unfortunately, these are the symptoms that are presently the most difficult to treat with current medications. Antipsychotics, SSRIs, benzodiazepines, none of these medications improve motivation or cognition in any significant way. And although stimulants can help them a small amount, these tend to worsen psychosis, so they're not used for schizophrenia. And so all these medications have powerful side effects that can inhibit the recovery for people with these illnesses. I, for one, have experienced restlessness, sedation, weight gain, affective blunting, meaning you can't express your emotions very well. And so these are very powerful and troublesome side effects. What if I were to tell you that there was a new treatment approach emerging today, added to the multimodal arsenal of psychiatrists and therapists to use that Stephen Hinshaw was talking about just a moment ago, that by its very nature carried no physical side effects and was aimed to target the deficits in motivation and cognition that we see in schizophrenia and other brain illnesses? What if this treatment had helped not only me, but the preponderance of people who use it in ongoing studies around the world? And what if I were to tell you this treatment took advantage of the very interest which drew me away from my real life when I was right after my second episode, the interest in playing digital games, to make using the treatment actually fun and help people improve their real life prospects in the process? There is such a treatment approach emerging today, and I'm happy to tell you there is such a treatment approach, and it's called brain training, very simply. Brain training, done right and delivered on computers and mobile devices, can improve motivation and cognition. And because it's delivered this way in an online format, it can be accessible to anyone, anywhere with an online connection. So this can help circumvent stigma in getting people to treatment, and it can also improve access to care just in general. Brain training works by the property of the brain which we call neuroplasticity. But I'm going to tell you about how this brain training works by this property of neuroplasticity and share with you about my experience with a brain training program that actually was a turning point in my recovery, and talk a bit about two good examples of brain training programs that have helped a lot of people with their recovery. And I'm also going to tell you about a new online resource for making sense of this powerful new field and all the new options in it. So in brain training, it uses the property of the brain, which is neuroplasticity. Basically, Your brain is made up of malleable neural networks, which carry the signals which enable you to, say, daydream of your loved ones back home, or listen carefully to my lecture, or perhaps balance on the edge of your seat, as I hope you are right now. But these networks are plastic, and that means that they have the ability to remold themselves in response to conditions in their environment, such as repetitive use or consistent non-use. So its process works a bit like bodybuilding. The more you work out a certain muscle group, the stronger it gets, and the easier it gets to lift heavy weights with it. Similarly, the more you use a certain neural network, the stronger it gets, and the more easily you can perform the mental activities that are associated with it. It's like use it or lose it. So by giving a targeted workout to the specific neural networks that are deficient in diseases like schizophrenia or depression or other mental health conditions, we can strengthen the brain in ways that can actually help patients. In 1998, 2 long years after my second episode, I had the great fortune to encounter an experimental cognitive training program being conducted at UCSF and the Stanford VA Medical Center. A young doctor named Sofia Vinogradov was conducting a training program, a testing program for an early cognitive training program called Fast Forward. It's now called Brain HQ. And she was testing whether it would improve cognition in schizophrenia patients. So my family's nonprofit, Imro, had funded her study, and my parents introduced me to her, and I volunteered for a study because I wanted to try and improve my then fuzzy thinking and help the research effort, and also try to newfangled game-like technology. So I volunteered for a study. And, back one slide, please. Back one slide. Thank you. So Dr. Vinogradov's team started by interviewing me about my quality of life and by testing me on a variety of cognitive domains, such as being able to remember and respond appropriately in conversation, which uses verbal learning and working memory. And after the tests were done, I was pretty sure my scores were pretty low. But then I started the 10-week program of cognitive exercises on a computer, which challenged me to remember sequences of instructions from memory and carry them out, to distinguish among sequences of subtly different audible tones, to recall details of stories told by verbal recording. And as I grew gradually better at these exercises, they grew gradually more challenging, such that I almost didn't notice a gradual brightening in my outlook. So by the time the training was done, I actually was tested again, and at that time I know that my quality of life had improved. I was much more comfortable speaking with family and friends, and my sense of humor had returned. I actually asked out the young postdoc who administered my testing to coffee. Unfortunately, she said no. But the point is that the training, I believe, helped me get more comfortable in conversation by being able to understand it better and respond more fluently. So I was more comfortable socially in general. And even though I finished the training at that point, my functioning continued to improve over the next several years, and it was, as I said, a turning point in my recovery. Within a few years, I was ready to return to work and to life among friends. So since then, my functioning's gradually improved. Today, I work at a job that I love. I'm happily married for over 6 years, and my wonderful wife, Nancy, and I take care of our lovable dog, Cooper, and our venerable cocktail, Audie. I feel very fortunate. Thank you. But meanwhile, in ongoing studies, Dr. Vinogradov has produced encouraging results for patients in general who use her program. How? By training the specific neural networks that are deficient in schizophrenia, such as those involved in auditory processing, such as involved in auditory hallucinations, for example, but other functions too. The training provides building blocks for the foundation for a wide variety of skills that can form a better quality of life. Patients in Dr. Vinogradov's training program have shown improvements in global cognition, in speed of processing, in verbal learning and memory, and in problem-solving ability. And these are the blue bars going up above baseline, which is the 0 mark. And when you compare them with the green bars, which are the placebo group, regular computer games, you see just how much better at improving these areas that cognitive training actually is. It does work. Similar to what I experienced in my life, we find that schizophrenia patients who use her program have continued to improve after training is done. This graph shows positive symptom reduction during training, the first leg of the graph in blue, and continued decrease in positive symptoms, that's hallucinations and delusions, during the 6 months following training. You see the line continues to go down. The green line is patients on the placebo group using regular computer games. You see there, they did not get better after 6 months after training. So cognitive training can clearly help patients with schizophrenia improve their ability to think and problem solve and remember. But there is an issue with it, and that is that using the cognitive training programs takes a lot of focus. You need to use them for at least 2 months to achieve real benefit, and you have to use them consistently. So in order to approach the problem of the fact that people with schizophrenia so often have a little not as much motivation as healthy people do, and many stop using the programs somewhat quickly, Dr. Vinogradov founded in 2011 a conference called SCONS, from which I've just come, in San Francisco, which stands for Entertainment Software for Cognitive Neurotherapeutic Society. And the object of this conference is to inject a healthy dose of fun into these cognitive training games by enlisting the aid of the entertainment software industry. Now, this slide shows an example of a game previewed at SCONS 2013 called Project Evo, developed at UCSF. And it looks very fun, I would say. And at SCONS 2015, which just happened, we found out about how just effective it's been at keeping people using it and getting better as a result. The other possible solution, and this is an end in itself, is to develop a treatment developed to address the motivation issues in schizophrenia directly and other mental health conditions. And to this end, there's a new app called Prime, developed at UCSF as well. Prime stands for Personalized Real-Time Intervention for Motivation Enhancement, and developed by Dr. Daniel Schlosser there. The development of Prime started exactly where I believe it should, by taking note of what science has shown about why people with schizophrenia experience motivational deficits. And that is that there are certain neural networks that are a little bit deficient, which causes us with schizophrenia, although we can feel pleasure in the moment and like to build friendships and skills, we tend to build mountains out of molehills, and to overestimate the amount of effort it'll take to get to success and underestimate the amount of pleasure we'll feel when we get there. So Prime aims to improve these symptoms in a variety of psychologically, theoretically validated ways. Prime offers its users a path to success, step by small step. It starts by asking users what they most value in their lives, such as building relationships with family and friends, getting more deep in these relationships, or perhaps improving physical fitness. And then it gives users these bite-sized daily goals to pursue to achieve success in these areas. For example, if a user says she wants to improve her physical fitness, the app might give her the goal to say, shoot hoops for 30 minutes one day. Now, the app has a social network feature as well. And it has professional coaches trained in psychotherapy to encourage people to pursue their goals if they're lagging and help them out. So when a user achieves success, she can post her video or photos of her success on the Prime social network to enable her friends on the network to give her kudos, and to also enable her to go back and relive and revisit her successes so she can feel the satisfaction again and again and again. And the idea is that by building confidence through this procedure, Prime users will lower the barriers between themselves and success neuroplastically. During the first 12 months during the study, 12-week study period, Prime users improved their self-efficacy scores a small amount, you see on the right, meaning they're more likely to execute their motivated behaviors. And they improved their behavioral approach system scores, the left graph, showing that they're more likely to try out new experiences, which is encouraging to see. They also showed the ability to improve their motivation, to improve their health, their role functioning, and their social lives. I'll skip over this slide because we're low on time. So we find that these two apps, Prime and BrainHQ, used by Sofia Vinogradov, are very helpful at improving conditions for people with mental health conditions. But these are just two apps among many, just two examples. And there are so many coming out these days, it's hard to keep track. At SCONS, I was just bewildered with how many things coming out now. So how to make sense of all this? The FDA is not currently regulating this space actively, so there needs to be some way to vet apps to see whether they're helpful or not. How can consumers make informed choices about what apps they want to use to improve their mental health? So enter CyberGuide. CyberGuide is a website managed by my family's nonprofit, IMRO, which rates and reviews mental health software. It focuses on apps for schizophrenia, schizophrenia, mood disorders in general, and anxiety and PTSD. And it also has about 50 different apps rated on the site right now. It features expert reviews and also has a new consumer ratings feature so that if you use a certain app that's on the site, you can post your own ratings, kind of like on Amazon.com. I invite you to check out the site at psyverguide.org, cyberguide.org. And if you use any of the apps that are on the site, to post your own ratings there. So, if you'd like to learn more about how to use either of these two apps I've talked about, BrainHQ or Prime, for helping somebody in your family or yourself with mental illness, or if you'd like to learn how to support the research and development behind these apps, please ask me after the panel. If you'd like to support CyberGuide, you may donate if you like at cyberguide.org. I'd like to acknowledge the help of Dr. Sofia Vinogradov, Dr. Daniel Schlosser, and Dr. Michael Nabel for providing the material for these slides. And if you'd like to contact me after the symposium, here's my contact information. I hope this information has empowered you to try new ways to improve your or your loved one's mental health. Thank you.